the entire premiership of two-tier care slippery Starmer will go down as a farce of historic proportions. Now, the Superstar Panel. Paul Cox, Emma Kenny, and Father Calvin Robinson with me. Father Calvin, this is a cover-up, isn't it?
It's quite obviously a cover-up. It's not a very good one either.
This is covering up things that are absolutely disgraceful, disgusting, dangerous, and deeply problematic at the core, not just of politics, but of society. So absolutely, there would be calls for these to be brought forward. And I'm surprised they haven't just got a forensic analysis of this phone. Yes, it's challenging to do that, but in murder cases we do it. Why can't we do it here?
Well, indeed. I mean, Paul Cox, great to have you, by the way, on Outspoken for the first time. A real pleasure. And I had Mike Graham on the show yesterday. Now, you remember he was sort of let go or sacked or however you want to put it by Talk TV because they claimed that he had posted something on his phone that he says he didn't post. And he said all of these forensics are easily available. If you want to get these messages, you can get these messages. And it is very clear that this government does not want these messages to emerge at any cost.
Yes, they are acting with entire impunity. I agree with the rest of the panel. This has now got beyond a point of just your day-to-day shenanigans that happens within the Houses of Parliament. This is treachery as far as I'm concerned, because these people are acting with complete and utter detachment from their responsibility to the UK public, not just their voters, absolutely everybody else. As Emma pointed out, this isn't just some sort of small crime. This crime underpins a much bigger crime, and that is the Mandelson association with the biggest paedophile this world has known in recent times. And this in itself should absolutely bring down Keir Starmer. He should have gone a long time ago. The fact he's not gone and the fact that he hasn't gone yet, and it doesn't look like he's going to go just anytime soon, says to me that everybody is complicit in this. And I mean that. I mean the Met Office, the Secret Service. There's no way that Morgan McSweeney would ring 999 or 101 or 111 or whatever it is. He would immediately ring the Prime Minister's office and say, the most important phone I have has just been stolen from me.
Unless he did that and then a little plan was hatched. Oh, we know the Metropolitan Police don't investigate anyone who has their phone nicked. It's broken Britain after all.
Well, he probably should have thought twice if he could have worked out that the Athletic were going to make some idiotic association with the fact that because you liked something that someone said, you like everything they said. So the fact that he particularly agreed, which by the way I do agree with, that renaming English buildings or locations in other languages outrageous. It wouldn't be done anywhere else in the world, and I don't know why it has to be done in our country. And liking that and agreeing with that doesn't then leap into the fact that he then agrees with every other thing that Rupert Lowe says.
To the Superstar Panel, Father Calvin Robinson, Emma Kenny, Paul Cox. Paul, I mean, can you believe the tone and the tenor of that conversation? It is very apparent to me, having watched the whole thing, that Jim White was basically suggesting that John Terry should be excluded from all football managerial roles.
Well, like I say, sadly, I can believe it. This has been the convention now for many, many years. What is happening, though, Dan, as we're all testament to, is that the changing of the guards is taking place. It's a slow change. And when the reckoning happens, and by the reckoning, I mean that we have, hopefully, a right-leaning government in place in the next 3 to 5 years, then the rest of the public will be able to see it's left and right, not left and wrong, and that there are alternative views out there. John Terry is a lad that comes from the East End of London. He would have seen, even in his 40 years, a massive change. I've got family that were born in the East End of London in the 1910s, are sadly obviously no longer with us. But the stories that they used to tell about how quickly the change happened in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it took people by surprise. People can still remember how things were, and they're allowed to have nostalgia for those days. The idea that we can simply just change everything for some political ideology that most of us never signed up for is utterly ridiculous. And then to hold John Terry accountable for that, because just in a moment of weakness, it would appear, John Terry in his position liked to tweet, an Instagram post from Rupert Lowe is also ridiculous.
And I think, Paul, this is what's great about Simon Jordan. He doesn't need the gig. Do you know what I mean? This is a wealthy, successful man in his own right who, trust me, would be absolutely fine in the independent media space. And so he almost has a power that some other people don't, because he is able to go into TalkSport and say, okay, I'm surrounded by all of these woke staff members, but I'm just going to say what I think. To hell with you. I love it.
Look, I know the left absolutely demonize billionaires and hate wealth and success in any way, but thank God for the independently wealthy like Simon Jordan and Ricky Gervais and John Cleese, who we'll talk about later, because they are in a position where they cannot be cancelled. And that's the one thing we've all talked about here is the ability to cancel someone for wrongthink, for having the wrong idea. You can't cancel someone who is independently wealthy and isn't going to go away and is their own boss. So if they come out like Simon Jordan and say, hang on a minute, what do you mean? This is utterly ridiculous. You're not supposed to just have one view. And by the way, the irony of a sports commentator saying you must only have one view, like you can't differentiate between the different teams, for instance. They're always discriminating. They're discriminating against one player to another, one team to another, one country to another, within the boundaries of football. All we're doing here is having exactly the same discussion within the boundaries of politics and day-to-day life. It should be totally acceptable.
It is worth pointing out here that Cleese is prepared to offend all religions. You'll remember some of those famous Life of Brian skits, right? Which very much offended Christianity at the time. And as he says now, just add that criticism of a religion is a traditional British value. Criticism of Islam should be called Islamo-skepticism, as the Sussex phobia suggests an irrational fear, like a fear of spiders or dogs. Some criticisms of Quran practices like child marriage, female genital mutilation, the duty to kill infidels, and the stoning of women are definitely not irrational. To my superstar panel, Emma Kenny, Paul Cox, and Father Calvin Robinson, to immediately say, oh, far right, and others are saying racist. Well, number one, it's not racism. Like, can I just correct that? Maybe you can call it Islamophobic. I really like John Cleese introducing this new term. I'm going to use that, Islamo-skeptic, because put me down as an Islamo-skeptic, okay? Yeah. I'm there. I'm well and truly there. You know, I know that lots of young Muslims are being taught to push people like me off the top of buildings. So yeah, I'm an Islamo-skeptic, okay? I'm there. But I totally agree. Like, you can't just now say John Cleese is a far-right nut job, because actually lots of his views are totally on the left. Now, Paul Cox, very interested to know what you think about this, because obviously you are a comedian who has been brave with your views from early in your career, which I presume has got you cancelled from a lot?
So I'm being quite fortunate on that. Doing sort of this type of media on a very regular basis now for about 4 years, obviously. Like,
you're not going to be booked for SNL UK. Do you know what I mean?
I'm not going to be booked for SNL UK. Absolutely not. I mean, I'm probably about 20 years too old, to be fair. But other than that, I don't share any of their views. I mean, I wish them well. Get on with it. I hope it goes all right for them. But at the end of the day, I tell you where I know this is still a capitalist country. I run and own comedy clubs. Therefore, I book comedians. So all of a sudden, the people who do have a view of me keep it to themselves because they still want to be booked. So,
I love that, Paul. I didn't know that. Okay, and do you book comedians from like right across the political spectrum?
Yeah. I do, absolutely, because my clubs are called Epic Comedy. We don't own any venues. We go into other people's venues and put professional comedy on. But we book nights for the audience. And as we all know, and thank God it's still the case, there is a very sort of diverse in terms of political view audience in the UK. And I'm in the home counties. I'm in Hampshire. I'm in Dorset. I'm in places like that where I would call the normal people live. And they don't care. They want to see Leo curse because Leo curse speaks their way. But also they've got children who want to see somebody. I mean, I'm not going to book Nish Kumar. Sorry, Nish, absolutely no chance. But there are people that want that type of comedy.
Yeah.
And I accept that as someone who's running a business.
Yes. Well, no, exactly, because we're not trying to cancel left-wing comedy. I mean, we can say Nish Kumar's really not funny. I mean, we're not trying to cancel him. We're not calling up venues telling them to not allow him to perform, which are the tactics that the left do use on the likes of Jim Davidson and Katie Hopkins and other comedians on the right. Did you ever work with John Cleese during his time at GB News?
I did, actually.
What did you think he was like?
I was it was interesting because the dynamic was, he was a little bit of a hero of mine. He's the one of the few people that I've met in my media career who genuinely been in awe and actually asked for a selfie. It's not really a done thing when you're a contributor just to walk up to someone else and say, can I have a selfie? But I made that decision to do it with John Cleese because, he's a man in his autumn years, so we don't know how long he's got left. But John Cleese is someone that splits opinion anyway, just because I think Father Calvin was absolutely right. John Cleese next week could have an opinion on something else we all totally disagree with. But I really welcome that too. I like the fact that people can share their opinion. One thing I hate more than anything is that people are getting into tremendous trouble for simply having the wrong opinion.
But we've also had a statement from Huw Edwards himself. This was not run in the drama, instead issued to the Daily Mail. And in it, he said Channel 5's factual drama, and he put factual in inverted commas, is hardly likely to convey the reality of what happened. They made no attempt to check with me the truth of any aspect of their narrative before going ahead with the production. They belatedly asked for a response after the drama had been made while reserving the right to edit any such response. They also refused to disclose whether any of those making allegations had been paid for their contributions. It is difficult to see how this approach can be considered remotely responsible or fair, or be in compliance with key sections of the Ofcom Code on broadcast standards. He also did apologise, offering regret and remorse for his 2024 conviction. He said, "My deep regret and remorse for the crimes I committed were expressed in court. In pleading guilty at the earliest opportunity, I took full responsibility for my reprehensible actions. I am repelled by the idea that some people enjoy viewing indecent images of children. Every image represents an innocent victim. I offer my sincere and profound apologies for what I did." But then he revealed his own comeback, saying, "I am making an effort to produce my own account of these terrible events. This is a slow process given the fragile state of my health. I have been open about my struggle with persistent mental illness over a period of 25 years. What is less well known is the severity of the condition, which was managed successfully until the downward spiral which led to an appalling outcome. Mental illness is misunderstood by many, but can never be an excuse for criminality. It can, however, at least help explain why people sometimes behave in shocking and reprehensible ways, and why things fall apart for me in the way they did." And Paul Cox, this publicist for Huw Edwards, Barry Tomes, had the red carpet rolled out for him and was on the Good Morning Britain sofa today.
Incredibly softball interview as well, I thought. And this really boils my blood. Excuse me. What's happening here is the continual legitimization from the mainstream liberal elites of pedophilia. They excuse it away all the time. A mutual friend of ours, Lucy Connolly, did over a year in prison for words on X. This guy served no time whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, if he gets any more media time, it's a perpetuation of his crime. His victims would deserve further compensation. This is outrageous. The idea, for me, that there are still people out there, whether it's voyeurism or whatever it might be, that would still be interested in seeing a paedophile of the worst kind continue his media career because he was once thought of as a decent person, is absolutely sickening.
Yeah, it really is. Reminder of your Union Jackass nominees today. Huw Edwards, nominated by Emma Kenny for trying to make this comeback, as we've just discussed. Morgan McSweeney, nominated by Paul Cox for this cover-up. And Crispin Blunt, he is the former Conservative MP. I think he's also the uncle of the actress Emily Blunt, for suggesting all drugs should be legal after he admitted 4 narcotics charges, including possession of crystal meth. And the results are in: Crispin Blunt in third place with 6% of the vote, Huw Edwards, the runner-up, with 36% of the vote, and today's worst Briton in the world today with 58% of the vote, Morgan McSweeney, nominated by Paul Cox. And Paul, you have a brilliant choice for today's Greatest Briton, and I am so glad you went with this man.
Yeah, this is Nathan Newby. Now, unless you've read today's papers, you might not know who Nathan Newby is. There he is on your screens. A regular-looking guy, a white British guy from Leeds. He was in hospital in Leeds at St James's Hospital in January of 2023. And in come Mahmoud, I'm going to get his name right, Mahmoud Farouk, with every intention of essentially committing a terrorist act in the maternity ward. And Nathan recognized this, and instead of doing any, we may all get angry or run away or whatever, he went and asked him if he wanted to chat, ended up chatting with him for some time, showed him, some consideration, gave him a hug of all things, and Farouk was arrested and taken away and never committed the crime. So essentially, and he's now been given an honor, by the way, this was a couple of years ago, but he's just been given an honor this week to honor his bravery, essentially, and how brave he was, because that guy did have a live explosive on him, apparently. So congratulations, Nathan.
Saved
I'm glad
so
people like that
lives.
are still among us.
Yeah, could have saved so many lives, that simple act of kindness. And I think Mohammed Farouk did end up getting life in prison, didn't he? So, yeah, wow. Brilliant story. Brilliant choice. So great to have you on the show, Paul Cox. And so we can find your YouTube channel at Paul Cox Comedy.
That's correct. Thank you very much, Dan. I've had an absolute lovely time. I'd love to come back. Thank you.
Well, so brilliant to have you here. And of